What's going on, Bet Spurters? We are back with another episode of the Byron Golf DFS Bet Spurts Golf Show. However you want to throw those words into the mix there. We are having such a good time. Ron has frozen to my left. We'll wait and see when he shows up, but it looks like he's back in action. We've got the Valspar on. So based off your picture right now, it looks like we've been painting with a really big brush, but it's getting a little more detailed as we go along. So what is cooking? How are you excitement-wise for the Valspar? Ron?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, just going back to last week, I mean, like it usually does, the volatility at the players hit pretty hard. Most of my 6, 7K guys came through, but I had way too much JT. And of course, the one player who never misses the cut in 8 starts missed it last week. So I had literally had one solitary lineup with 6 of 6 getting through. So,
Wow.
But Sunday was great though. I did have an 8-1 ticket on Scotty who kind of chased down the pack. So that was fun to watch.
It was a frustrating week again. I forgot to set my lineup, so I had 150 all entered in the same again. I need to do less lineups because I keep entering 150 of the same freaking lineups into these things, and every time I'm hoping that it can just be like a 6 for 6er. I didn't have the right guys this week. So we'll have to wait and see for this week. I will be making sure I get all my lineups in because I'm a good human being. So we've got some fun names, Ron. We got an interesting course. We got some fun weather. We have got it all this week. We've got guys coming off of a historic week at the Players, kind of all shooting ridiculously low scores. Right off the top of the bat, I know we were chatting about it. I guess it's a good way to kind of get into this week. I bet plus money, plus 100 for 268.5 strokes or more for the winning score this week. And I think it's only ever happened twice. Sam Burns has managed to do it both times. And when I was taking a look at historical wind, the wind hardly ever blew above 10 miles per hour, those 8 rounds of golf. This week, we've got at least 2 days that's slated for like 18 miles per hour minimums. I think we're going to see some serious wind, Ron. So I'd imagine that bet is good now. I don't see these guys dismantling this golf course like we've seen in the past. I think they're going to be struggling to scramble. It is going to be wet. I'm kind of curious as to how you're kind of taking this week on.
Yeah, I jumped on that bet with you. I think that was a great number. I think it's dropped a bunch since then. But no, Innisbrook is one of the most underrated courses on tour. Kind of has one of the most complete tests of golf players are going to face all year. You have all these numerous, 12 dogleg holes. And Larry Packard, who built this course, he was famous for what he called double dog legs. And so you have a couple of those as well. You have elevation changes. You have these bunkers that are very well positioned. You have 6 holes with water danger. The rough is approaching 4 inches. Very difficult pin positions on the greens as well. So, yeah, the course, it did play under par to the past 3 years, but it still does rank as one of the, top 10 most challenging courses on tour. So, for me, one thing that I'm going to try to be a little different with this week is prioritizing around the green play, scrambling, especially with the changes made last year where, they increased the rough around the greens more and they pushed the short grass areas further back. And so last year was really tough in both those areas. And so, yeah, positional golf this week again. Not really any advantage for bombers off the tee. And so, I think long iron play, because most golfers are playing to a spot again. They're trying to lay up. They're trying to, get the right angle to the green. So, yeah, 175 plus from approach is going to be another key number. Along with, I will say this, par 5 scoring. Those are the only holes on this entire course that average under par. And I went back and looked, and last year, Taylor Moore played the par 5s at 7 under, and his winning score was 10 under, and he only had 4 bogeys all week. And that kind of is really the name of the game here at Innisbrook is, score on the par 5s, just try to survive on those challenging par 3s and par 4s.
That's the name of the game, and we're going to see everyone's going to overreact tomorrow when it's going to be blissful, calm conditions on a, semi-wet golf course. Maybe it's dry right now, but we're expecting some wind and rain to come. So exciting times ahead. We've got an exciting 10K range. We got Xander Schauffele, Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, and Jordan Spieth all sitting at 10-2 to 10 or 11-2 with Xander sitting at the top there. We got the 5K range again this week, Ron, which is really important to remember, especially when Xander Schauffele enters this week in some of the most incredible form that has not won a tournament. And it's just so sad to see. You know, we've spoken about his lack of ability to kind of finish out tournaments. We saw that again last week. You know, I'm sure you've heard that on multiple shows already, but you've heard it here many, many times in the past already too. So what are we doing with Xander at 11-2? It's looking like he's going to be 30, 35% owned potentially, depending on where you play him, how you play him. I think he's just far too safe of an option right now to kind of get off of. I do, however, Ron, think that in the wind, his game ain't it. And I'll take a shot at that with the third of the field on him this week. Yes, no?
Yeah, so I don't know. For me, when I see that ownership and I see, we talked about this with him, it's been all over how, yeah, he's going to finish top 10 for sure, maybe top 5. It's just when I see in the 30s and coming off, a performance like that, he's only played this course once. I know course history here, it doesn't mean a ton, but, for me, it's where I'm probably going to play him with my other core group, and I'm probably going to be very underweight on Xander this week. Okay. And so that's how I'm taking him, like maybe 10% is what I'm shooting at.
Cool. That's an interesting play, just to kind of have him a little bit. I'm not going to be in on him at all at that ownership in this kind of wind. I'll take the chance, basically just hope that a third of the field somehow gets eliminated along with my top 10 bet on him. Call it a day. I've been enjoying betting against the chalk this week, or this year. Just place a bet on that guy to kind of get even money on him for a specific finish. That usually correlates with his price tag and how many points he needs to score to pay it off. If he finishes just inside the top 10, we're in good shape. I don't think that's too big of a problem. Sam Burns is the defending champ here on, and not the defending champ, looking to go three-peating and win this tournament for a third time, with Taylor Moore kind of having won it last year. I think Moore will be intrinsically popular because of the fact that we've seen so many back-to-back winners at this golf course. But I think this week is for Sam Burns once more. He's playing great golf coming into the week. The two little misfires that he had at the Players and the API, where he finished outside the top 30 in both, are totally fine by me. I think we've seen him play worse golf entering this week to still win the tournament. And I think at this venue, you cannot pass up on Sam Burns. He's got historic putting splits at this golf course, Ron. He, of all people with 20 rounds of golf or more at a specific event, Sam Burns leads the PGA Tour since 2017 in those metrics. He dominates on the greens here. And it's been so fun to watch. So I'm like obsessed with him. I wrote tons about Sam Burns in my article. It's really, really crazy to see what he's been up to. And only one other person, I know I'm rambling here, but one other person in the PGA Tour schedule roster has gained more strokes in another area of golf than Sam Burns has putting at this golf course. And it's Hideki at the US Open. Like, the guy just has been incredible on approach at the US Open. So fun fact there, that's the only other name that has a better strokes gain metric at a specific event over the last little while. So if you can't tell, I'm all in on Sam Burns. Ron, where are you going?
Yeah, so if I'm off on Xander, at least to a degree, I'll be honest, because and we'll get to the 7K range, but because there's so much value down there for me, there's 3 guys up here that I'm each going to be playing. And so, yeah, Sam Burns, I completely agree, consecutive victories here, solo 6th last year. His last 12 rounds here, his scoring average is 67.8. Even more encouraging, though, is kind of his consistent play, which he's kind of in the longest stretch of his career. He hasn't missed a cut in 8 months, 5 top 10s during that span. So, completely agree everything you said on Burns. Justin Thomas, so again, continues to frustrate, as I mentioned at the opening there. But here on a course that demands ball striking, I do expect him to rebound from his poor performance last week. Here's another course. He's got 5 career top 18 finishes and 6 starts. And even last week when he missed the cut, he still gained 4.7 on approach. And so I just think in a weaker field like this, he should not have as many issues, hopefully back to back. He kind of, if you look at he's kind of been inconsistent, over the last month here. So hopefully this, I'm going to bank on this is his week that he bounces back. And then Jordan Spieth, just really quick. I know people are down on him. I know his swing looks off, but this is the perfect kind of course for him to find his game as the Masters approaches. With all the dogleg holes, you need creativity to have success here. And he's shown that in the past. He's got a third here. He's got a win here. And I know, ownership is still, getting up there still a little bit. I know with the 5K range, people are maybe taking more shots up here. But I just think, and I'm just playing a hunch here, that this is the week he really starts to turn it around.
Yeah, I was on Spieth here last year. That was a very disappointing finish to the week. Unfortunately, he couldn't keep it together down the stretch, as he's shown multiple times. The two guys that you mentioned finally there was Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. So I think if I'm fading Xander at a third of the field ownership-wise there, you can play all three of these other guys at about a third and still be fine. You can have leverage on the field in those departments. Spieth, you only have to roster like 25% to kind of get double there. I think Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth, when you put them in wind, Ron, we've chatted about this before, it triggers something in them that they just have that other golfers don't. Their creativity, their ability to control the ball in intense wind is just, second to none, particularly Justin Thomas. And I think, I'll be looking to add Justin Thomas live if he's made the cut on the number barely and there's 2 windy ass days coming up. Give me JT. So I'm in on both those guys. I really like their chances this week. Xander taking most of their ownership is totally fine. I think you can see people starting with Sam and JT, Sam and Jordan, and going from there. More popular, though, will probably be the Brian Harman $9,800 out there on. So chat to me about Harman. I mean, he's gaining strokes on approach that are at a ridiculous clip right now. So it's really interesting to see what he's been up to.
Yeah, just really quick, going back to your win conversation on, JT is second best in this field. So on the rabbit hole, we just recently added three filters for wind. And again, it's not the most accurate in the world because it's taking, the entirety of the round. But in windy conditions of 19 plus miles per hour, Thomas is second, Jordan Spieth is fifth best in this field. So just something to, kind of confirm some of those, things we see on the course, from time to time. But
who's first?
Yes. First is Tony Finau.
Interesting.
Yeah, Finau's first. Sungjae, who a lot of people have this idea that he's not good in the wind. He's the third best in really windy conditions in the field. So,
wow.
Yeah, I'll get to him in a second. But yeah, Brian Harman is someone for me where it's almost, I haven't done any research on this, but it's almost with him and Xander, you've seen Harman play well so many weeks in a row, and you just kind of wonder, is this the week when, the bottom kind of maybe comes out a little bit underneath him? I know going back here, the course does kind of fit him, just because it is similar. But, when you look and see that he's missed 5 cuts here in 6 tries, that kind of weighs a little bit on me as well. So if anything, I'm going to be very underweight on Harman this week. Cam Young just continues to kind of, we talked about him a bunch on here, but I just can't pull the trigger on him yet either. Yeah. So I'm like I said, I'm dropping down to Sungjae here at 9.3 or 9.4. He's finished 7th overall for me this week, second best off the tee. And with the added weight I'm giving to around the green play, especially with these windy conditions, he's top 10 and around the green, scrambling. And he's gained 13.5 strokes on the field in his 2 starts here. So, something about him and Florida courses kind of click. And then I'm dropping down 100 below to Tony Finau. People, I know he's won, in a lot of these easier courses, whether it's Detroit, Mexico, but he's second best in this field on difficult scoring courses. And so, he's among the PGA Tour's leaders in a bunch of tee to green metrics. He's got 3 top 20s in his last 5. So he's a guy at 93 that I'm willing to look to this week. And, I'm seeing it right around 15, 16% ownership. So, it's pretty spread out in this area. But I think Sungjae and Tony are my 2 guys here.
Yeah, it looks like Brian Harman and Doug Gim are kind of sandwiching this kind of full range of just being absolutely chalky in that, and then everyone between them, just a little bit of mayonnaise, nothing too crazy going on there. I think you can play pretty much anyone outside of Harman and Gim without thinking you're going to get, too square in that opinion. Nick Taylor has my attention quite a lot. I think he's really trending in the right direction. Putting and approach play the last, this year has been incredible. He's top 6 in both departments entering this week. Give me all of that. I think he's $9,100. That's very fair. Let's rock and roll with him. Like you mentioned, Tony Finau in the wind on these difficult courses at this price tag. He's $1,900 cheaper than Xander. I feel like that's a very fair price for Tony, especially with the way he's striking the golf ball. I mean, dude, the ball striking and tee to green stuff with Finau right now is just, it's insane. It's just the putter is that bad right now, and maybe these greens get him back into like the mix, but we'll have to wait and see. Minwoo Lee, I'm out on. It does worry me that in these kind of conditions, he can kind of scramble his way around this golf course. I just don't think he can ball strike his ball well enough. I think he's going to have to rely on that scrambling too much. I'm out. I even have a Brian Harman matchup against him at -140. So we're going all the way in on Harman, all the way out on Minwoo, and just see how it goes there. So this 9K range, not very big now that we got the 5s, but there's some names here. I'm all there with you, Sungjae. I think he's found that turnaround point in his game after the API, and maybe he can, continue that good stuff at this venue on. So I'm in agreement there, baby. I'm in agreement. Let's scoot on down. Let's chat about Doug Gim. Let's chat about Keith Mitchell. Let's chat about Aaron Rai, Eric Cole, some big names in this range that all fit this golf course run. Doug Gim, 20% ownership, 21% ownership. Doug Gim has not had a top 5 in the last 12 months, yet we're getting 20% ownership on a guy that's $8,400. Talk to me about Doug.
I mean, there's no doubt he's playing some terrific golf right now. Even in the model that I ran for the week, he finished 12th overall. And so, yeah, you can't deny how well he's playing, and you could probably justify him being even around 9K. But yeah, like you said, I just think for my just analyzing this range here, even if you go upwards to the top half of the 8K range, I'd rather be overweight on some of these guys who are coming in, around 10%, who I think have much more upside than Doug Gim has this week. So I'm completely out on him. I'm not approaching anything where, 20%, that's just way too much for a guy who, like you said, hasn't ever shown that upside that we're looking for. So for me, this range all starts with Christian Bezuidenhout. He's 13th at the Players, 2nd at Amex. When you go back long-term, short-term, last 36 rounds, he's leading this entire field in approach. When you look at these greens, he's the 9th best putter in my putting model that I run when you take into account, the green speed, the greens, Poa Trivialis. He's just an excellent course fit here. I think, he's live to win this week. And there's not many weeks I say that about him, but I just think he's kind of, approaching that area where, I think he's going to be a really good play. And I'm seeing 11%. Don't know if you see more than that, but I think he's a guy that just is someone I want to be really overweight on. Yeah. Eric Cole is a guy who, 6 top 25s this year. I know he's had his struggles lately. But still, when you look at 9th in proximity, he's 2nd best from 175 to 200. He's, leads this field inside of 10 feet putting. And so I think Eric Cole, this is another kind of one of the themes for me this week, whether you're looking at JT, Eric Cole. My next guy here, Keegan Bradley, 8-6. I think this is another bounce back opportunity for him. Mm-hmm. I think he has some win equity. He was 2nd here back in 21. And, while I think Keegan has the upside, I think if you want to drop down one below, even to an Aaron Rai, who's kind of getting up there a little bit in ownership as well. But when you just look at his consistency and how he fits the course from, just a guy who's so consistent ball striking. And that's what you need here. That's one of Taylor Moore's quotes after he won last year is it's all about fairways and greens. If you can hit fairways and greens, you have a chance. And so, Rai's a guy who, if you want a more consistent guy, Rai's your guy at 8,500.
Totally agree. And like you said, you're not going to be getting much more than 13, 14% on anyone in this range outside of, 21% Doug Gim. By the way, plus 170 for a Doug Gim top 20. He does that 35% of the time. 4% of the time he's inside the top 10. That's just an insane resistance to be inside the top 10, Ron. So that to me just makes it really easy to fade him in that situation and just play a top 20. It's a really weird situation going on with the Gim Reaper there, but we like that. Keegan Bradley, interesting fact about him, he's birdied the opening hole, that par 5, that short one, 78% of the time. Like, and he's played this course like a million times. So it's just really, really crazy to see what he gets up to on this golf course. I don't mind him at all, Ron. I think I'm right there with you. Some guys down here in the sevens who I have me on is a guy by the name of Sepp Straka. I know the around the green play is a bit weird, but when it comes to just like precision ball striking, I can really see Sepp. You know, he hasn't been playing well, but he, to me, provides more upside than Doug Gim, right? Like, if you find him playing well over the weekend, he's going to give you that top 5 finish that you need in order to take down a GPP. And I just don't see Doug Gim doing that. So I'll be taking on all these guys, and Sepp is 12% less owned than Doug, you know? So to me, that's a totally fine situation. Some other names that I don't mind are Brendan Todd in this kind of weather. Plotter, just get up and down. The guy's short game's incredible, and he's been playing hot and cold lately. Give me some of him. And then a few other names. I mean, do we like Akshay Bhatia at this kind of a golf course? It's a crazy situation. I don't know if he thrives in the wind, you know, if that's the coastal thing, going to play up here a bit more than normal, but it's not a resort course. We'll have to see. But he intrigues me a lot. And I think, you know, Lucas Glover in this kind of weather, this blue collar mentality, just ball strike this place to death is another option that I'll be looking at. But he's looking like 12% owned as well, which is maybe going to leave me not wanting to play Lucas Glover because that's a little too much for my liking.
Yeah, well, it appears you hate the lower 8K range as much as I did because you skipped over it. So I agree with you on that. No, I agree. There's one guy I will mention really quick, though, that's Maverick McNeely. I think he's found his groove again. You know, a 9th at Sawgrass. That's a 6th straight payday. He's got 3 top 15s in his last 4. And again, when you're looking at putting, saving par, you know, top 10 inside of putting, when we're looking at, you know, 10 feet and closer, bogey avoidance, you know, really big numbers I'm looking at this week, you know. So I think McNeely at 8,100 is a really good price. But yeah, I agree with you on Straka. I'm going to be really overweight on him. You know, he gained 5.9 ball striking at Sawgrass. I think for him, though, it's kind of his, like you mentioned, his accuracy off the tee and his overall approach play is going to allow him to separate on a course like Innisbrook that kind of emphasizes his strengths. And so I do like Straka. So Andrew Putnam, 7-7. Ted Scott, Scotty Scheffler's caddy, had a great quote about this course. He said, to play good around here, you're going to have to play boring golf. And Andrew Putnam might be the ultimate boring golfer. He's very conservative. He hits fairways and greens. He avoids bogeys. He's 3rd best in the field in bogey avoidance. Made 7 of 8 cuts this year. You know, he did rise to a top 10 at Bay Hill. So I think Putnam is an interesting price. 7-7, you know, coming in, I'm seeing around 8% right now. But so I love those two, Straka and Putnam up top. And then I think this bottom range is really loaded with guys that you can, whether you're looking at consistency, you're looking at upside. Lucas Glover finished 15th overall in my model. He could be 15%, and I'm still playing him this week because that's how much I like him. Okay. Top five ball striker in this field. He loves these Southeastern courses. Been very consistent this year. Sam Ryder, I know another guy who's, you know, what are you seeing him at? Because I'm seeing 9%, but I'm thinking he's going to get higher than 9%.
Yeah, he's very popular. He's playing good golf right now. I don't know. I think he's mentioned that it's been a home event for him the last 2 times at the Cognizant and the Players. How much further away from home is this one? So maybe he just likes Florida golf in general. So we'll make a note on that. But yeah, he was not playing good golf, Ron, entering the Florida swing. And since we've got to the Cognizant where he's, you know, just had a completely ridiculous run of finishes there. I think 4 top 21s in the last 4 starts there at least. You know, I think entering last time it was 3 top 10s that he had there, which is just bizarre to think about. So maybe he kind of fits, you know, these Florida guys, they've grown up on these courses. They don't get that anxiety off the tee box with the irons, you know, when there's so much water around. So maybe. But at that ownership, that's crazy. You know, like it's tough to justify. He's very volatile. I mean, at any given moment, the guy could miss the cut. So I'll take my chance not playing him. You know, we'll have to see. But there's other.
Yeah, I think he's definitely a great course fit. And you mentioned his form. You know, his approach the last 24 rounds, top 10 in that category. I'm kind of targeting this week when you're looking at 175 plus. So I think he's a real interesting play. But he's one that I do like Glover more than him. So if Ryder's ownership, you know, gets higher, then just something to monitor. You know, Daniel Berger, you know, DraftKings priced him pretty high in his first couple events back. And then I was kind of expecting maybe around 8K this week. And, a little surprised he was all the way down at 7.2. But then again, he has not played well. He's missed 3 cuts in his return. His putting has been horrible. I think at this price, though, I think we can take a gamble in a relatively weak field. And so for me, I'm going to bank on his upside and talent here where, at this price, all I need is a top 30. So Berger is a play who, I'll be overweight on. And then Adam Schenk, I think we definitely need to mention him, runner up here last year, 19th last week at Sawgrass. He gained over 6 strokes tee to green. Another guy who just kind of, I think he very easily could be priced higher than where he is right now. And so I think Schenk is another guy that I do like. And going back to what you said about Akshay Bhatia, he is 6th best in this field in the wind. So he does play really well. The only concern I have for him is he's 60th in on courses that are difficult to score on. And so, he kind of does thrive in those coastal birdie fests.
Yes,
but again, you're getting a really good price here, though. So I think he's kind of in the same boat as Berger for me, a guy who, I think you can play maybe 5 to 10% on and, just see what happens.
Yeah. Akshay hasn't made a cut in the last 3 starts, missed the last 2 cuts. Yeah. So maybe not, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. Adam Schenk, Ron, is very interesting to me because it's been very inconsistent golf from him this year. We've had multiple top 25s, also multiple missed cuts. I don't know. I think at his ownership as well, it's like just there's lots of ownership like collecting in these spots, and it's just a crazy week with wins. So I'm really going to try my best to pivot off of guys like that and go elsewhere. Like someone that's coming in really low projected for me is Ryan Fox right now, and I know he's a very good world-class golfer that hasn't really shown up. I think did he miss the cut last week or make the cut and finish like 56th or something or whatever?
He missed it.
He missed it. So not playing the greatest, but if you think about like his mentality, he's scrappy, right? I think when he won the BMW Championship there at Wentworth, it was in wet, kind of windy conditions. So he just kind of seems like the golfer that could really take care of that in these conditions and pop up to a top 10, at $7,200 and 2.5% owned. No one else is really showing us that kind of ownership leverage yet until we get to the 6s, and that's when things are tough. So let's speak about the guys in the 6s, and I'll lead off right away with a pivot off of Joel Damon to Kevin Yu. Lord help us. The upside with this guy is incredible. He's just a top 10 magnet or top 40. I think his top 40 rate is 30% and his top 10 rate is 20%. Like he just like fires up the leaderboard when he plays well and doesn't when he doesn't. So for me in a GPP, I'm firing up 150 lineups. We are going to go with Kevin Yu. Some other names in this range.
I know. Let me interrupt you here real quick because I know you don't want to talk about last week where we have this alternating draft in the 6K range. So
okay, yes.
Just wanted to remind you of that.
Let's. I'll start with Kevin Yu. How does that sound?
That sounds good.
So yes. Who did you have, Ron? I'm pulling that up right now quickly. You had Ryder. We finished 16th. Doug Gim finished 16th. Taylor finished 26th. Was that Nick Taylor?
Nick Taylor, yes.
Yeah, and Fox was your only miscut. I had 2 miscuts from Pavon and Horschel. Pavon really let us down there. And then I had Ryan Pan finish 35th and 42nd. So not too bad considering, we got what? I'll clump my 2 guys in there with your 3 and say that's a pretty solid batting average for that range.
Yeah, for sure. So my first guy this week is going to be Victor Perez, who is 6'9" also. Kind of a slow start to his first season here on tour, but kind of taken off. 16th at the Cognizant, was 3rd at Puerto Rico. He has tons of experience playing on all types of courses. Excellent win player. He moved from France to Scotland, and so he has all these, whether it's all these European DP World Tour events that he's played in the win. So I really like him this week.
Victor Perez. Yep. I think he's, a very solid option there at $6,900. I'm going to dive into somebody that's kind of, I've mentioned in the past, someone that I feel like really suits this kind of environment, and it's going to be Mackenzie Hughes. Lord help us in this situation because, he doesn't grade out amazingly for me, but, 32nd, 31st in the model. If you take a look at what he's been up to, though, He's had a 13th place finish here. Didn't quite fare out as well as we would like when the conditions were easy, but in those difficult conditions in 2019, he finished 13th. So this guy can scramble. He can hit his golf ball well with irons out the rough. And to me, that's what I'm looking for at $6,900 in a field that is not necessarily the strongest. There's going to be a lot of emphasis on scrambling. He's one of the best in the world at doing that. And we've got 3 top 31 finishes in the last 4 starts for him. So I'm all in on him. I like him on these difficult courses. Let's rock and roll. $6,700, peaking a little bit. Give me Mackenzie Hughes. I'm chatting your ear off here today. Sorry.
No, that's a good play because he was on my list. So good choice there. He like you said, he really loves these difficult courses, tends to rise above his baseline. I'm going to drop down to Matthew Neesmith at 6.5. He has not played well until last week, finished 26th at the Players, where he gained over 5 strokes tee to green. And he definitely has an eye for this course. There's only 2 trips here. He has a 3rd and a 21st. So put me down for a Neesmith.
All right. Love that. So you've got yourself a casual Victor Perez, Matt Neesmith start. I am marking that down so I don't get confused. And then I'm going to give you my guy. And it's going to be Ben Silverman at $6,500. We're going back to the Silver Ben there. If you take a look at what he's been up to, his last 3 starts, the Cognizant and the Mexico, he finished 16th and 13th there. Missed the cut at the Players, whatever. That's the big boy event. I'm not expecting him to necessarily shine at that kind of a golf course. This week, smaller field, crappier golfers. We are going back to Ben Silverman. This guy's been balling out. I think he's a very good scrambler. Doesn't have tons of distance off the tee, so maybe this is a course that kind of lets him feel like himself in these conditions. I'm all about him. I've got a top 40 for him at plus 170 as well. So let's see what Ben can get up to in these conditions. I'm all in. Sean, we're going to get to your question, yes, shortly about the specific guy, but I think he'll probably get picture in the next three picks.
I'm going Lee Hodges,
Okay.
who is sitting at, where is he at? He is at 6,600. So he has gained, when you look at, 2 make cuts in a row. If you look at what he's done on approach, he's gained 4 strokes on approach the last 2 weeks. Yeah. His putting has taken a little turn upwards here. So I think Lee Hodges is a guy who, when I look at the model I built, kind of plays really well on these courses in the Southeast and tougher conditions. He also plays above his baseline. So I like Lee Hodges.
Yeah. I mean, that looks really good, Ron. You know, just seeing what he's been up to the last little while, I think Lee's trending in the right direction for sure. I'll go with Andrew Novak. Why the hell not? I'll kind of honor Sean's little request there and chat about this dude. He missed the cut at the Players, a big boy event again, but leading up to that, he had the 3 top 10s at the Cognizant, the Mexico, and the Phoenix Open. You know, so those are 3 courses, 3 events that are kind of like this, where the expectations aren't that high. You know, I think he was playing so well going into such a big tournament. Maybe it just didn't work out for him. So I think going back to him this week at this price, we can expect another top 10. I have a top 10 bet on him at plus 900 for what it's worth. I think, you know, he's kind of just shown that propensity to find himself inside the top 10 lately. Let's go to Andrew Novak at $6,700 in a much weaker field.
All right, my final play. This is as low as I'm going, by the way, for this entire week. Although I may have a couple shares of Aaron Wise in honor of Ryan Noonan, because I do think as poorly as he's played, I think that talent level is going to come through at some point. And so, yeah. But for me, Alexander Bjork, who's mostly known, probably mostly unknown on the PGA Tour. This is his first year. He's a guy who's at 6,400 who has not played well, although he did finish 11th at the Amex. But if you go back to looking at what he did on the DP World Tour last year, like he had a string of top 10s where he was just on fire over there. And so I think he's another guy who's played in these, windy conditions you're going to see. He thrives on tougher courses. He is not good off the tee distance wise. And so I think this course where you're playing positional, angular golf really fits his style of play. And so, he made the cut at the Cognizant, which is, similar in style. And so I think Bjork 6,400, sign me up.
Yep. I'm in for that too. I love Bjork. I bet the guy to win outrights at the Sony and things like that coming into this year. So once he starts showing a bit more, we can expect that. I'm always down to take that risk with his upside in DFS more so than betting. Some other options as we kind of scoot out of here into the fives, Ron. Ryan Moore was a great play at $5,100 last week. Yet again, makes another cut at the players. That guy just seems to have his courses he plays well at. Guess what, folks? We're going to take you down a trip of Ryan Moore's track record. Yeah, it's 3 missed cuts and a made cut, though. So not necessarily as nice as I was expecting. But I'll take a gamble on him at this price at $6,200. It's a similar course fit. He's playing some good golf coming off of the players. Maybe he gets in the mix there. What about Jonathan Vegas? Does he entice you at all, Ron? I think he had a first-round leader here last year and then got injured, I think, heading to Mexico.
So here's the boxes he checks for me. Ball striking, he's top 10 in this field. Difficult courses, he's 12th. Windy conditions, he's 25th. Par 5 scoring, he's 24th. So, yes, he does check a lot of the boxes this week. And so I did have him marked down. But, yeah, I'm thankful you brought him to my attention because I definitely want to include him in my pool this week.
Yes, definitely want to include him in your pool. What about our lovable Ryder Cup captain, Zach Johnson, playing this week in some really testy conditions, Ron? I'm sure Zach models out pretty well in the windy situation there because he's just scrappy. And I feel like this course suits him. I'll take a chance on him at 6K.
Yeah, I'll like I said, I'll take Aaron Wise 100 times over Zach Johnson. Aaron Wise plays his best golf on difficult courses. He's 9th. Aaron Wise is also 4th in the win. And again, he's had a lot of good finishes down in the kind of coastal courses as well. So I'll take him. And really my only other guy that I'll look at here in the 5K range, I think Justin Lauer at 5,700. He's made 4 of his last 6 cuts. Kind of fits the profile of ball striker and a guy who can get really hot on the greens.
Lauer's been playing some good golf, Ron. So we'll have to see what he can get up to. I'll add to Aaron Wise. I feel like at $5,900. I mean, dude, if this guy plays to his ability, I think he played quite nicely in the second round of the Puerto Rico, right? So he kind of figured his stuff out there despite missing the cut. So that's good to see from him. How does a $5,700 Aaron Baddeley sound at a golf course that rewards scrambling ability? Can I introduce you to the number 1 scrambler on the PGA Tour in 2024, Aaron Baddeley, in this field at least? He leads the field in strokes gained putting and around the green and is almost dead last when it comes to ball striking. But on a shorter course like this, give me a guy that can up and down for par like crazy. He's had a 37th, a 28th, and a 24th in his last 5 starts. I'm cool with Aaron Baddeley. Another ball striking beast, though, completely opposite to Baddeley, is Rafael Campos. This guy he's exciting, Ron. I have my eye on this dude. He's got tons and tons of distance off the tee, hits his irons really nicely. We'll see what Campos can get up to in these conditions at $5,600. I'm in. I'm also in on Zach, like I mentioned. I think he's going to be scrappy in these conditions. I'll also throw in another name by the name of Luke Donald. I know that sounds, I'm going to be playing these Ryder Cup captains because they're both short hitters, on this course. At $5,200, Luke Donald is a really good, he's played well at the Bermuda. He's, on these shorter courses where you can lean into those long irons. They suit his game really nicely. So I'm in on Luke this week. And then I want to just mention one more thing about a guy by the name of Trace Crow at $5,100. He's just Trace Crow. Sign him up into your lineups there. A little bit of going on, and we'll see what happens. So that's all, my people. I have been yapping away today. It's not like I've been on a million podcasts this week anyway, but hey, maybe my voice box was ready to rock and roll, and I'm just that happy to see my good friend Ron sitting next to me. So 40 minutes in, Ron. What are we feeling this week? Who is going to win this tournament? I don't think I caught an outright from you this week.
I didn't take anybody up top. I took a kind of group of guys lower that have, their odds have already, gotten worse. But, Sepp Straka's one. Let's see, who else did I take? I took Lucas Glover when he was 110. I think he's dropped to like 60 right now. I've got McNeely. I've got Adam Shank. So I'm still deciding on what I'm going to do up top. I'm leaning JT if I could just get JT to drop to 16. But we'll see what happens tonight.
Yeah. Saw Sam Burns drop from 12 to 14 today, so that was surprising. But hey, we'll see what happens. As always, folks, thank you for tuning into the Byron Show here over on BetSperts Golf for this week's Valspar DFS breakdown. It's going to be windy. It's going to be rainy. This course is volatile. It's difficult. Don't forget to pivot your face off.